we went to war really with the VC to try to get him removed. We didn't win, and we wrote our resignation up, and we in the office, and we basically closed the office door, slid our resignation under the door, and slid the keys under, and walked away from something we had worked on for 3 years.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Moments That Matter podcast, the podcast where we dive deep into the pivotal moments that have shaped the careers and personal lives of industry leaders. Today, I am so excited to welcome David Millili to the show. David, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Jason.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So we've got just about a week to go before the Super Bowl, and two Philadelphia guys sitting here. You pretty excited? I know you're in Scottsdale, but are you guys doing a party or anything?
Yeah, I don't know. When I first moved to the first year I moved to Phoenix was the Patriots Eagles Super Bowl, and there's a big Eagles bar in Old Town Scottsdale. So I went to that. 2 years ago, the Super Bowl was in Phoenix, and I actually bought a ticket, went by myself. And unfortunately, you know how that one ended. And so this year, I'm like, you know what? I've been to the Super Bowl. I've been to the big party. And, I might curse a little bit too much during the game. So maybe I'll just stay at home and just, keep everyone away from me. And I'll just sit there and have a glass of wine and have a bottle of champagne and a cigar ready if we win. And if not, I'll just have some more wine.
Or tissues to wipe the tears.
Yeah.
That's awesome. We got invited to this Super Bowl party from a friend of ours, and it sounds, she's like got 20 families coming. It sounds like a big ordeal. So we're really excited. The kids are pumped. They've got themed days here in Philadelphia. Like, Tuesday is where the Eagles hats day, and by Friday they're all in Eagles jerseys, and they're going to do a pep rally, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So I'm curious. I'd love to learn more about your backstory. So for people who may not know, I know you've been in the industry 25 plus years, CEO of a lot of great companies. But where did it all start?
Yeah, for me, it really started. I was at University of Pittsburgh, needed a job. My best friend was at Cornell Hotel School, and he said, "Well, just go to a hotel, you'll get a job." And it was something I never thought about because back home outside of Philly, I worked cleaning offices. I worked at a sporting goods store, and there weren't any really hotels in my town. So I rode my bike downtown, which is, I don't recommend that to anybody, to downtown Pittsburgh, applied at a couple jobs, and I took a union busboy job at the Hyatt. It was $6.50 an hour, and I had $21 a month union fees. And that started it. And I guess it was my age, and I guess it was just, it was downtown, it was in a city, and just the hotel bug kind of bit me. Like, I knew I didn't want to be in food and beverage, but I kind of just loved this energy of the hotel. I just kind of liked it. Even I never really liked my job being a busboy. I just kind of was feeding off the energy, and then was lucky enough to, my food and beverage director transferred to the Hyatt Princeton over the summer, and I went home, and then he basically got me 40 hours in every position in that Hyatt. There was a Catch a Rising Star comedy club, so I worked bar back at the comedy club. I was a bouncer at the comedy club, pool boy, room service, host, banquets.
So what, you just raised your hand for all these different opportunities?
Yeah, he just took me. It was really cool. I tried to keep a good relationship with everyone, and I was, we had a good, work relationship, older guy trying to mentor me, and he just took me in and said, "Hey, give this kid 40 hours a week for the summer." And they did. They moved me all over. I didn't know where I was working other than the comedy club. I had no idea. I'd stop,
show up and they'd
place you. Yeah, get in early, and then I would say, "What's my schedule next week?" And they're like, "Oh, you're working the pool. You've got 2 banquets, and you're doing, your host at the restaurant." And everybody thought I was a Hyatt. I always looked older as a kid, so people thought I was like a Hyatt trainee. I had my dad.
They sent him in from corporate.
Anyway, so that was it. So I got bit by the bug, and then I went to FIU for hospitality, and the rest is kind of history. Worked in hotels, and then switched over to the tech side in 2000.
Wow. So you've got, a lot of people, like I came into tech, and although I was a a bellman at a hotel and owned Sonic drive-ins, fast food restaurants. Had not, worked the front office and whatnot. So, had you actually after college, worked each of the positions inside of the hotel as well?
Pretty much. I mean, most of my time outside of college was in the front office. So I had a couple assistant front office manager roles, um, night audit I did. And then I got really lucky. I ran into a guy in Times Square who was opening an 80 room property. It's still there today. He was very frugal. And he said, I need a manager. And I said, look, I know how hotels run. I can do it. And I was like 25 years old. And I basically opened the hotel for him, 80 room hotel in Times Square, right when this is 1995, right when Times Square was going through that rebirth, and Giuliani was the mayor, and the Yankees were were coming back, and um, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just figured it out. We had one of the first Windows based property management systems,
Oh,
and this is 1995 to train my staff how to use a mouse. I had to make them play solitaire so they could learn how to drag and drop and click and do things because nobody had home computers. Nobody
wow.
knew what a mouse was. It was a core, it was. And so we opened that property and we did pretty well. We were one of hotels.com's first customers. And from there, I went to a larger 400 room property and I lived both properties. I lived on property. And so, that kind of burnt me out. And then that kind of led me to the tech side when I got the opportunity to go do a.com. I jumped at it because I was working, 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and
Oh
and
yeah.
hotels don't really pay that well. So I was eager to get
Right.
out. So yeah.
Yeah, we had an amazing woman on the show, Amy Burr, who's president of JetBlue Ventures, and she talked about at a very young age as well, just saying yes. Like, oh, we have this opportunity. We don't know if you're ready. I'll do it. I'll do it. Just jumping at it. And I think everybody who we talk to that's CEO, president of their own company, chief commercial officer, throughout their career has just made a leap, said yes, and just tried to figure it out on the fly. What was it that made you think you could tackle that? I mean, it sounds like this was a big risk on this guy's part. If he's a frugal guy, Times Square, a lot of eyeballs on that, and then entrusting a 25-year-old was think
Yeah,
of it.
I think it was, it was two things. I mean, he wasn't going to find anybody to do what I did for the money he wanted to pay. That
Mm,
was one. And two, I did have a lot of experience. At that point, I'd been working, for about 6 years in hotels. And so I understood the in and outs. And having worked all those different positions and, trying to talk to people in the employee cafeteria and, understanding, night audit when you've got to go clean a room because there's nobody there to clean it. And, all of a sudden somebody checked out early and you need that room because you're going to be sold out. Just understanding the ins and outs of a hotel. And yeah, I was pretty, for at the time, 95, I was pretty computer literate. So he understood like, hey, this guy's going to be able to, because he had bought some pretty advanced, he was frugal at some things and other things he wasn't. So staffing, he was frugal, but it was one of the first Windows-based property management system written in Fox Pro. And we had motion detectors in the rooms that when housekeeping came by, they had a key that would show you if somebody was in the room or not. And he spent a lot of money on the beds, and we actually built all of the furniture in the basement. He had a guy from Ecuador who was like a woodworker and
wow.
laborers, and we built all the furniture for the hotel. And he made a deal with the Museum of New
Awesome.
York City, so we had all these cool black and white pictures of Frank Sinatra and Brooklyn Bridge and all these different things that were all over the hotel and in the guest room. So, um, it was sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time. Somebody recommended it and said, "Hey, you should go talk to this guy."
Mm,
And we just kind of hit it off. And he'd had another great, super smart concept where he basically wanted me to hire actors and actresses since we were in New York City. And so I had high turnover, but my staff was, when they were there, were incredible because they were actors. And so they were
yeah,
basically
they
very
played the part.
personable. Most of them were, they were good looking guys and girls and that were, happy to work for 10 bucks an hour as as a struggling actor. So, but it was
Yeah.
cool. It was a fun time.
That's really cool. You sometimes when when people are thrust in or they seize the moments with taking on leadership roles early on in life, they're not necessarily equipped to manage people. And, there's some bumps and bruises, there's some lessons learned, but how has your management style changed from, who you may have been at that point in your life, 25, trying to operate this hotel, then let's say, toward the end of your last CEO position?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much the same minus the scars. I mean, when I was in college, I was working at the Hollywood Beach Hilton, and they entrusted me. This was a 300 room property right on the intercoastal. And Friday nights, I was pretty much the manager on duty.
Hmm.
So I ran the property, the evening shift, because the woman who worked all the other days needed one day off. And I learned early that if you conducted yourself the right way, you respected people, they would respect you. And I was at that time, I was like 22, and I had bellmen, other workers that were all, 40, 50, 60 years old that were looking to me to make the right decision. And because of the current political climate, I don't like using the word common sense anymore, but I used a lot of common sense,
Yeah.
uh, and again, I respected people, and to this day, I've always respected my team and the people that work for me. And I think, like I said, other than scars, and of course, you're going to learn some stuff. Yeah, there's differences between running a 30-person company and a 1,000-person company, which I've done. But at my core, I still feel like I'm still that same, 25-year-old GM in Times Square.
That's awesome. That's awesome. A lot of people can't handle that at such a young age. So, I mean, that's incredible that you had the wherewithal to manage that the right way. Um, Switching gears a little bit, can you think of a defining moment in your personal or professional life that helped to shape who you are today?
Um, yeah, I think the defining moment was my first company. My first tech company was just purely like a hotel booking engine. We raised $1 million in capital through a VC. That was the Friday before 9/11. 9/11 hit, decimated our business. The VC had put in a CEO, a guy from Connecticut, because we were young, and they were like, "Oh, it's $1 million. We want adult supervision, all this good stuff." And we this guy was not good news. He wasn't working hard, and we were doing everything, and he was just kind of had like this no-show job where he'd take the train in from Connecticut. And we went to war really with the VC to try to get him removed. We didn't win, and we wrote our resignation up, and we in the office, and we basically closed the office door, slid our resignation under the door, and slid the keys under, and walked away from something we had worked on for 3 years, and
Wow.
went kind of underground. Started working out of Starbucks, and one of our developer we hired working out his apartment, and we spent 10 months building a new platform. And that happened in February of 2023, and we launched my second company in January of 24. And that was kind of the defining moment, because the kind of the
Oh, 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 four?
oh, four, yeah,
Oh,
sorry,
four.
oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
but so
Wow.
maybe that was a
So,
defining
so
moment.
did they come back? The VC, they were just like, hey, they just let you go. Like, hey, it is what it is. We're gonna ride with this guy.
Yeah, I mean, they basically they were fed up. They really weren't believing us. We had some inside information that he was looking for a job, and he eventually 2 months later quit. And then they told us we could come back if we wanted to report to this other woman, and we were like, no, it's like it's either our company or we're out, and we've already found out the hard way.
Wow.
So we stayed out, and like I said, it's kind of that moment where you're like, shit, I just gave up on 3 years of my life for
Yeah.
nothing. So anyway.
But the lessons learned through that experience, what they propelled you into the new company that you started in '04.
Yeah, so we took everything. So we had a pure booking engine company. All it was a link you put on a website to make reservations. But what we found out is that hotels didn't have the money for good websites. They didn't know how to market the websites. They didn't really even have email. They didn't know how to do SEO. So our second company was the first all-inclusive. We went to independent hotels. We built their website. We hosted it, gave them a private label booking engine, did their e-marketing, their SEO. account management, and then we basically just took a percentage of the bookings and made it a partnership. There was no setup fees, and we grew that business to about 10 million in revenue in 3 years. And and
Wow.
again, it was that learning, from the first, so again, it was tough walking away, but we learned, and we're like, look, it was too much of a headache just to, back then they called him the webmaster. And we'd go to a hotel and say, hey, we need to put the booking engine link. And they're like, oh, I think the GM's cousin's uncle's son is our webmaster. He built the website. Let's see if we can get in touch with him. And so we just took it all over, and that actually started a shift in the industry, because after that, Travel Click and Sabre, they got into the website business because they couldn't knock us out of the key cities in the US where we had websites. So that was around 2007 when that kind of thing shifted there, and there was kind of a little bit about this booking engine website war between this little guy in New York and all the big guys. So
That's awesome. Making some noise.
yeah.
All right, I got a couple of moment-based questions. If you could travel back to a moment in your career and offer advice to your younger self, when would you go to? Where would it be, and what would you say?
It would be probably right around 2008. Um, my business partner and I had separated. He left the company, and I I decided to go down a path of, it was more kind of self-preservation, and I should have went out and raised money.
Hmm.
And there was just so much going on, and I was so involved in the operation, and everything, that was really going to be difficult for me to do that. I didn't feel at the time I had enough of a supporting cast to really do that. And with 2008, you had financial crisis, and so I wish at that time I maybe would have probably cut a little deeper some of the staff, or raised money, or taken some debt on the company, and then end up selling to Pegasus, which wasn't the worst thing. I sold in 2009. Um, Actually 2011, sorry. Wasn't the worst thing, but still think I should have probably gone back and raised money and just spent a couple more years on my own and not sell the business.
Have you lost sleep over that decision?
No,
No.
I'm pretty good at moving on. I mean, it's kind of like, it's a silly analogy, but it's like a QB throwing an interception. You got to just keep moving on, because if not, if you don't continue to make mistakes or put yourself in a position to make mistakes, I don't think you'll ever reach your full potential. So for me, I'm 54. I'm
Yeah.
not perfect. I could make a mistake tomorrow. Somebody could call me up and say, "Hey, do you want to do the following thing?" And I could say yes. And yeah, I'm going to be. I've learned a lot, like I said earlier, with the scars and things of that nature. But I don't really have too many like regrets that really bother me, to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, like you said, it's not the worst thing. A successful exit to a larger company where you ultimately assume the CEO role. I mean, it
Yeah,
kind of worked out for you.
yeah,
That's
it
awesome.
did. Yeah.
Is there a place you've traveled, whether work or pleasure, that when you were there made you rethink your approach to life or work?
Um, I wouldn't say necessarily rethink, but I can tell you, and I guess it's from, spending a lot of time in New York, but I really feel at home in London.
Hmm.
Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I just feel like super comfortable. Like, it's like a weird thing. Like, if you told me tomorrow, there's a job opportunity, you got to run a company, but you got to be based out of London, like, I wouldn't even think about it as long as my family was okay with it. So that made me rethink it, because I never thought that I would like be anywhere outside. I guess growing up like in a small town in Pennsylvania, like I never thought I'd be like in a big international city and feel comfortable. Like even when
Yeah.
I first got
Yeah.
to New York, I didn't feel comfortable. I had to move to Dallas to like New York. Like I moved to New York, I hated it. I got a job in Dallas. I went to Dallas. Sorry, everybody in Dallas. And then I was like, I love New York, because I just out of college, and the difference between, in New York, getting out of your hotel or apartment, jumping in a taxi and having everything there, versus Dallas, where it was like, oh, we got to go drive to Deep Ellum to go to a bar or whatever it was like. So yeah, so London is just one of those places where I just feel comfortable. And that's kind of made me open up more to this idea of, the more and more loving of traveling and seeing new things, and seeing, is there going to be another city that I just feel, super comfortable in, that if I was going to retire, maybe I'll just retire
Yeah.
there. I don't know.
Is there certain things you do when you're in London that you don't necessarily do elsewhere? or you just feel like it's safe, the activities you're doing?
I just feel comfortable. I mean, I love the kind of the pub scene. I kind of just like the history of the city.
Hmm. Are you like a royal fan, like the royal family and that kind of
No, not at
get into?
all.
Oh,
No, I'm not
I
subscribed
know
to the
people who
Inquirer.
follow them. They like know where they're going, updates on their children and stuff.
No,
Pretty
I
wild.
just like I like the history. I mean, for me, like I just think it's cool. To me, like riding in a taxi in London's like going to Disney. It's like you feel like you're in this like this super the way the wheels turn and you're in the other lane and and you're
Oh,
driving, you're seeing all this history in these buildings that our country is so young compared to Europe that you see some of these things and even when you go into some of the pubs or restaurants and they're just they're kind of breathtaking and for even though people criticize it, there is a good food scene in London, and it's cool. I mean, for me, like a perfect night would be just walking along London with a cigar, and then just when I get done my cigar, popping into a pub and just checking out what's going on. That's to me, that's a cool night. Yeah.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Awesome. Well, I think I've got one more moment question and then a couple others. For you is we all have to make decisions. I probably make 100 a day, small and big. Is there a time or a moment when you had to make a decision that was against the popular opinion, whether internally, externally, that you had to make that decision, and you're in the moment there, and you're thinking it, mulling over your options, and you had to go against the grain, and what that result was?
Yeah. So I mean, I don't want to harp too much on Pegasus days, but a lot of the your listeners, the older listeners, there was a brand in Pegasus called UTEL, and it was a representation brand. So it's kind of like what TravelClick and Sabre are today. They had a chain code for the GDSs, and it was around since the 80s, so before the internet.
Hmm.
And it was an outdated business model, but it had all this history around it. And I killed the brand. I shut it down, and I pissed off so many people. And it was the right thing to do. The numbers totally validated making the decision. It was an outdated product. It was kind of like a combination between being a Sabre Travel Click client and a leading hotel. So we had this this UTEL kind of brand, but nobody knew of it, none of the consumers, and we charged we weren't competitive. We were charging a percentage of bookings even through the GDS when Sabre and TravelClick had moved to a flat fee. So we were hemorrhaging, we were bleeding, we were losing. We lost from 2007 to 2012. Pegasus, including part of the UTEL brand, lost about 7,500 clients and
Hmm.
about 50 million in revenue. And so I shut that down. And for 2 years after that, I still had people when I'd go to Europe from Pegasus offices who would pretty much in a nice way, but tell me off and they don't
Wow.
understand. And why don't we bring back UTEL? And the UTEL was great and the clients loved it. And I'm like, well, we lost thousands of customers. They must not have loved it that much. So
Yeah. And going through that process, you saw it for what it was objectively, right? And
yeah.
you're like, we just got to do this. Um, what are you thinking? You know that there's going to be like a fallout, consequences, backlash, but you just stand on your own principles.
Yeah, like I said, the data supported. I had a lot of other support. I mean, there was definitely a divide, but there was definitely more people supporting it um, than fighting it. I think some people were, they wanted to keep the name and they were a little, they were a little too attached to it. At that point, I thought the name was associated with weakness and under delivering and not quality. And so for me, there was no even quality in the name. But look, that's, that in your CEO, you've got to make those decisions. That's what you're getting paid for. That's what the investors want you to do. So, I'd rather make the decision that I believe in with some good data behind it and a plan. I mean, we changed the UTEL offering to Pegs Connect. And we had a whole plan behind it and we put together marketing and we had a whole go-to-market strategy. And we did, for full disclosure, like in Italy, we left the UTEL brand because for whatever reason that we had probably 70, 80 hotels in Italy that just loved UTEL and they were happy and they were paying and they were renewing and we just kind of left it over there and didn't take it away from them. But yeah, again, it's the CEO. You got to make those decisions. I mean, it's it's fourth and one at their 45. What do you do?
Yeah.
You punt, you try a 60-yard field goal, or do you go for it? So,
We had boy, in right before the pandemic, in I guess it was February of 2020. Hover was not Hover. It was called Hio, and it was um, a mobile app that people used out at events, mainly networking events. The most advanced app. I mean, you know how Uber, you can get out of an Uber right now and you can compliment John for a good conversation, like,
yeah.
or a variety of different attributes. So we had, if you met someone at an event, you could friend them and then you could share whatever you want. Hio, HIO was short for hit it off. Two people meet, you hit it off. You could give people compliments on the app. You could do pre-scripted follow-up emails or texts. It was so advanced. It was absolutely incredible. And we got a $20 million verbal offer February 2020 for it at the SoCal Startup Days in Irvine. And I text my lead investor. He's like, seems a little light, which it did at the time. We were hoping for a much bigger exit, and it would have never survived due diligence. So I flew back to Philadelphia, and just about that time, COVID was spreading, and I had to be up in New York City for the New York Tech meetup on March 5th. And I told my wife, I go, I don't know, I don't know if I want to get on this train. Like, this COVID thing seems real. And so, COVID hits, and we're holding the app, and it was the number one rated app for both networking and events on iOS and Android. So it was great. People liked it. And it wouldn't have survived, that deal wouldn't have survived due diligence. And we ended up, um, there were no events, so no one needed this app. And we tried to follow our customers into virtual events. And so the decision earlier when you were like, should I walk away from this company that I've been building for 3 years, and then this difficult decision to set something down. We tried and tried for about a year, maybe a year and 2 months, to maybe a little more, to get this virtual capability up and running. But at the time, money was flooding into other Run the World, Hop In, Zoom. Everybody was kind of doing their own virtual events, and we were so undercapitalized. We had 2, 3 people full time at that point, and so finally, we had about 75,000 left in the bank. And I made, the decision to shut down this company and say, like, we're not in events whatsoever. We had this other idea that I'm like, with this last bit of capital, I'm going to go to our investors and let them know that my recommendation is actually moving into this new direction with what we have left. And to my surprise, they first it was like shock, like, what? Like, we've built this whole thing. Can we sell any piece of it? I'm like, there's just no events. Like, they're all virtual. And we knew at some point they'd be back, and they are now. And I've had to download a couple of extremely subpar
Yeah.
mobile apps in the last couple of years to use. But man, it was a difficult decision. The best one, though. We ended up, finding a niche with content delivery and travel and hospitality. But it was one of those decisions where I kind of saw everything. I saw where it was going. I knew that we had brought, a knife to a gunfight in virtual events, and it just wouldn't happen. But it's wild in the moment where you're kind of going into those meetings knowing that it's unpopular, but you have all the evidence that supports it's absolutely the right decision, and you just got to go with it.
Yeah. No, I
Pretty
mean,
wild.
yeah, those are the ones that are tough. And, like you said, you just, it's survival. You got to make the decision that's going to give you the best chance of surviving. So,
Crazy. So what's the work you're doing with New York University in the hospitality division?
yeah, so we just had a call yesterday with the company. There's a group of us. So what they do is it's the NYU incubator accelerator geared around hospitality. There's probably about 35 to 40 mentors, everything from executives to private equity people, all sorts of, senior people. And what we do is we get paired with a company and we help them put together their pitch deck. And then the winner of the competition gets $20,000 from NYU, gets to use office space in the NYU building downtown, one of the buildings. And that's pretty cool. I mean, you get to meet, yesterday I got on the call there was a guy on there from New York, and I don't think I've seen him in 18 years. And he's like, David. I'm like, hey, John. And we're like, haven't seen you in a long time. Where you at? But the most important thing is you get to work um, with mostly, early 20s, people who've graduated or part of the graduate program. They have to be an NY student. And, for them, it's pretty cool because even if they don't win, they get, several hours of advice and helping hone their product. Most of them don't have uh, an MVP type of product ready. They're kind of just trying to get the money to to go do it. And what we're working with is kind of a CRM for destinations, and so different, like, could be Bucks County or Montgomery County, different DMOs and things of that nature. And so it's pretty cool. It's a great way to kind of, whenever I do advisory work, I always want to do advisory work with companies that I like the product and it's going to be something different. And this is a perfect blend because, it might be something I already know, but it's through the eyes of somebody who's, 30 years younger than me. And so you can learn a lot about what that generation is looking at, what they're thinking about. And for me, that's the biggest thing I take away from it. The students get a lot, but I think us as mentors, we get, just as much back from learning from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I took my son over to, I'm the entrepreneur in residence over at Villanova University, and I love hearing the ideas. The thing with that is, though, they're not all hospitality, right?
Yeah,
So
correct.
they
Yeah,
are, and this is in the School of Engineering. So they are actually building prototypes. They're filing the patents. They've got a partnership there with a local law firm. But it's so awesome to see freshmen and
yeah,
sophomores in college pitching real ideas. And, to have my son walk around with me to their boards and hear about the value proposition and the problem that they're solving. That, of all the things I have to do in a day, that's one of the things that I really like to do because, like, I didn't know a lot of this stuff right up until I learned it. And so for me, I'm just like, hey, I also didn't know this, but now I know it. And I'm going to share it with you. And to see that kind of aha moment go on in their heads is just really cool. And to be around entrepreneurship where ideas are being formed and they're kind of in that exploratory phase, customer interviews, things like that. It's really fun.
yeah, I agree 100%. Yeah.
Any great ideas that have come out of that? Ones that you really think are like the next multi-billion-dollar ideas?
No, unfortunately, it's new, the NYU incubator, and it's getting better. So what they did, they were doing two a year, and it was like a $5,000 prize per each kind of run, for lack of a better term. Now they're making it 20,000. So we're getting, I've seen better ideas, but I haven't seen anything that's been like the wow, like holy crap. You know what I mean? Because I kind of, and some of it leads into there's been a lot that's gone through NYU that's been around beverages and kind of these, high quality like energy drinks and healthy things that are more cultural from maybe Honduras or, different nationalities from people. And so there's been some interesting stuff, but none that I was like, hey, if I had $1 million I can invest, I would do it right now. Like, let me write you a check and get you in here. Nothing like that. And but again, sometimes too, what I find the toughest thing is when you try to force innovation. And some of the students I feel are trying to force this. I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to come up with an idea. And you can
Yeah,
feel it. You
yeah.
can feel it's forced. It's not like when they went, oh wow, that's a problem. I got to go fix it. They were more like, let me think. Well, that could be a problem. Okay, let me try to fix that. And you're like, well, it's not really a problem.
Yep. Uh, I see that a lot. Um, I see that a lot, but good that they're thinking about it nonetheless. And
Yeah,
then that program, and yeah, when you dangle 20,000 cash out there, for sure you're going to attract some people that start having really good ideas.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you and Steve Coran have been running the Modern Hotelier podcast, successful podcast. If you're not listening to it, our listeners, please go check it out. Phenomenal podcast. You've had some great guests on over the years, and recently I've heard from numerous people about a new initiative that you have, Modern Hotelier Media. Sounds like it's going to be great. I've already seen one clip that looks incredible. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about it?
Yeah, so we, we have our traditional podcast. We started doing interviews at trade shows. Um, Steve is from the MTV era and, watched Cribs and kind of said, hey, couldn't we do something like that where it's more than just a regular hotel video? It's more like a tour and things of that nature. And so we really
Mhm.
spent some time and we went through the whole process and we realized, we did a lot of research on, especially independent hotels. And again, you know this better than anyone. And we just, every hotel website we went to, majority of them was just static photos or maybe one video that was the chick in a bikini and the GQ model checking in and the orange juice and croissants on the bed. And we said, well, wait a second. Yeah, they need some real footage. These are cool properties. They've got some really great stuff on property and off property. So how do we capture that? And then how do we basically educate the hotels on how to use that video to help
Yeah.
drive direct booking? So that's why, we've partnered with Hover. We go in and we offer full service where we'll take the tour, we'll slice it and dice it for you. We'll manage your social media for you. We'll get you, like, again, in touch with a company like Hover that can actually use cutting edge technology to leverage those videos to help drive more direct bookings. Um, our pilot property, the DOS summed it up great. He said, this video allows me to sell my property the way I would sell it if they were here. And
Yeah.
so this idea of you being able to give somebody from Philadelphia a short 25-minute video of the Hotel Contessa in San Antonio, and they can have the DOS walk them through and talk about the connection to local art and the history of the Riverwalk, and show them the property, show them the meeting space, the rooftop pool, the gym, the restaurant. And that's what everybody, I mean, we all know this. Everybody's up in arms. Oh my God, is TikTok going away? Well, why is that? Everybody wants to digest these little nugget sized videos. They want Instagram, they want YouTube shorts. And so we're trying to, from my background, we realize we can't just do video. We actually have to give
Right.
the hotels a plan on how to leverage it and use it. So
It's so needed. I can't, every single client that we talk to says, I love it. I love Hover. Where are you getting the content from? Right.
right.
First question, like, where are you getting the content from? And sometimes they have some, which is great. They may have some photos. They may have invested in a photo shoot. Maybe sometimes they have some video. We go out and find it for them on the internet. But this is such a great service that you're offering because people don't just want to understand like where they're going to rest their head at the end of the night. It's not about where I'm going to sleep. It's more about, this is the jump off point. Like, I'm going to spend a couple of days here in all of these different spaces. I want to get the most of it, and they want to be captivated by the story that people are trying to tell. Like, why is this painting actually here? What were the owners trying to achieve? What was the design concept? A lot of times these are things that influence, they're delighted when they arrive to kind of find these out, maybe even after the fact, but they're not being used, these elements, as a selling point to get you to go there. And I think this is going to be really huge for you guys.
Yeah, and I mean, look, we're hoteliers, so we know how hotels operate. And what we're trying to do is educate them and say, look, we've interviewed people from these high-end alternative resorts that are tree houses and tents. These are not
Yeah.
cheap. These are 3,000 a night with a butler. And it's like, you look at the content and you're like, you need more. You need that person who's deciding whether to go to the treehouse resort somewhere in the Carolinas or the tent resort in Montana. They'll sit there and they're going to spend 10, $15,000 on a vacation. They'll watch a 25-minute clip to make a determination. And then what we're
Yeah.
we're we're also launching and working with is how do we capture some of that local uniqueness of where the property's at? So how do we work with the concierge to say, hey, give us three really cool things. We're going to go video them. And then you're going to include that on your website and you're going to start to give them those hyper local experiences. But you're going to be able to show them rather than just having on a static website, dining recommendations or things to do. And there's a link to the museum. Show them a little tour or have us interview somebody from the museum or have us
Yeah.
interview the bartender from the speakeasy or the owner of the speakeasy. So that's where we're headed. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. And, it's tough, as you know, because it's still an investment and hotels have to spend money. And we're still in a time, even though it's post-COVID and things have rebounded, that hotels are still pretty, pretty close with their cash. So we're working through that. But we think this is, you said it, we think this is a great opportunity to help hotels, especially independent hotels, drive more business.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes in there's a lot that goes into the hotel design that people really never end up knowing about. That's why I really like the aspect of what you're doing of the interviews, whether it's guests there or some of the staff. What's unique? What's different? Why should people care about that? Last week, I was at Alice in Los Angeles, and my brother, who's an architect, was really interested in Alice Design Plus, and so I stayed extra a day to check out some of the sessions. And one of the sessions was Icons of LA, three different design firms. So they had Kay Lang from Kay Lang and Associates, Kurt Nix from KNA Design, and Dean Singer, who's the owner of Design 360 Unlimited. And they were talking about, if they're going to get an autograph collection, or they're going to get some soft brand, let's say, that comes down to them, and they read the manual of all of the requirements and the things that must be in this design, right? They take it as guidance, and then there is still room for interpretation. So where is this hotel physically going to be? And what happened in this region? And what story are we trying to tell? And so they design the entire concept around the hotel, what people are going to do, what they care about, but then also try to adhere to the brand guidelines. And you almost never see those things come to life on the website. Almost never. Hey, you're here in Denver. Okay, you're probably going to want to go skiing, catch a sporting event. There's like a page where you can link out to go there, like you said. But show me the micro adventures. Show me that this is going to be my launch pad for great adventures. And when I come back, this is going to be a place that has a story to tell. It's warm, it's cozy, it's inviting. The photos sometimes just can't do it justice, and you really need people. Like I saw the one clip where you had the manager talking about the art installations and the sort of the fabric of the community, and hearing it in their own words is pretty powerful, rather than no
Yeah.
volume video. It's just not going to get the job done, in our opinion.
Yeah, what we like to do is we we do the interviews, we walk around, and then we pull ourselves, back, and let just the director of sales do the more personable stuff, so the hotel can tell their story. So again, I mean, for a hotel, we think it's a great investment because they get a little mini episode on their property, and they get all this content that they can cut up and leverage. They go over a meeting room and hover, and they can go over the hover technology, and the meeting room can come to life, and you can see a video of that meeting room or hear Miguel talk about, the type of events they've had in there and things of that nature. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's hotels are slow to adapt, but they need to realize that there's more than just pictures.
Now, if one of the listeners was interested in finding out more information, where could they go to maybe book a meeting or find out more about this service?
Yeah, so modernhotelier.media is our new website that we're launching. That also links out to the podcast. But that's where we list kind of all of our services, things that we do, and what we're going to try to start doing. And I'm doing this on the fly, but even we're hoping to even do kind of modern hotelier hover weeks in certain cities where we can give super discounted, rates because we're already in that city. We've got the videographers, we're there. So if we do modern hotelier hover or hover modern hotelier in Nashville, we can hit up probably two properties a day. So you could probably
That's a
do
great idea.
4 or 5, and then let them reap the benefit of us, at least Modern Hotelier, our team being there. So we can drive down, probably save them 25% off cost because we're already in the market. So that's the best way to find out, modernhotelier.media. And we'll have some more exciting stuff coming up in the future, but it's cool times. I think it's good. And, partnerships like with Hover are great for both parties. And I think 2025 is going to be a big year of change and a big year of video, and we'll see where it takes us.
Yeah, we're excited about the partnership. We were talking just before the episode. We believe we've built a Ferrari. It is so flexible, so powerful. Hover always works from day one. Instantly, you plug it in and you just start getting results. The problem is sometimes when you use a tool like Hover, but you don't have good content, it's like putting 87 unleaded into a Ferrari that you've just built. Like we've got to have good content. And so partnering with folks like yourself that are really going to deliver the high end, really high quality content, we're just really excited to be able to offer that to our clients as well.
Yeah, and what's great is I tell people, we were talking about entrepreneurs and companies and what you've seen. I've been at this on the tech side for 25 years, and not because I'm talking to you right now, but like Hover is probably the simplest technology to explain and with the coolest effect. I mean, the fact that you can just say you hover over an image and a video starts playing, like it's so simple because most technologies in hotels, you got to explain how does it integrate with this and what does it, like this, that, and labor, and doesn't
Yeah.
like so for me, it's a it's a cool time, and I think for you guys, it's perfect timing this year to really kind of get more hotels to adopt technology, and the fact that it helps drive business is what everybody's looking for. So
I appreciate that. And it's funny, you just show it to somebody. Like
yeah,
Steve Jobs used to say, he's like, we want to make it really simple. You show it to me and you go, do you want this?
right.
And that's it. Like, do you want this? My brother and I, when we landed in Los Angeles for Alice, he really wanted to get a workout in. So we were staying at the Hotel Figaro, and which is just across the street, but we didn't want to pay the JW Ritz price. So we were close, but not there. And we, he says, let's hit the gym, tiny little gym. And there's people outside the doors, like doing deals that, the bedroom doors are open and people are rotating in. And we're in this tiny gym together, working out, talking. And this guy comes in really well dressed. And he's asking, hey guys, the water's over here. These are new free weights. You got the sense right away. He was checking just to make sure we were satisfied with the accommodations in the gym. So I said, are you the manager? And he says, yeah, I'm the operations manager. And my brother's always gassing me up, right? And he says, hey, this place needs Hover. So the guy goes, what's Hover? And so I was like, oh man, I'm sitting there in gym shorts and stuff. So I pull out my phone. I say, oh, it's this software that's, it makes it kind of like you have your own Instagram stories or TikTok right on your own site. So I show him the London House in Chicago, just the first pathway on the homepage. And the guy's like, are you kidding me? He's like, I've been wanting something just like this. And, so I said, hey, listen, I could have the team whip up something for you. So I messaged the team. We have a Chrome extension that allows us to drop these moments on top of anybody's site, even if they don't have Hover. And it's really powerful and it happens really quickly. We don't sell it. It's not publicly available, but we can do it. And when people see their content on their site, they just go
Yeah.
like, wow. And so 30 minutes later, I go to the lobby, I show these people the prototype, and they're like, I've never seen anything like this. And I'm like, yeah, do you guys want it? He's like, yeah, absolutely. This is a no-brainer. So we're gonna follow up and hopefully get on that site. But I'm not saying it's easy to sell Hover, but it's when you can show people it and you can get in front of someone who is trying to increase the average daily rate, who is trying to book more rooms, get more direct bookings. When they see this, sometimes you have that reaction like, hey, if it's priced right, of course I want it.
Yeah, no, and like you said, I mean, what's cool is we're coming from it from two sides. We're saying, hey, we have content and we're going to give you something to be able to leverage it to drive business. And you're like, well, we have something that can drive business, but we need the content. So we got to get it.
Yeah.
So the combination, and that's why, when Steve and I talked about it, I said, we can't have an offering. We've got to give a step-by-step process on how hotels can leverage video on their website and in their socials. So yeah, so it's cool. Yeah, it's very cool technology. We have it on our podcast website, and that's how we always whenever we pitch a hotel, we say, "Oh, just go to our podcast website. You'll see all of our little podcasters. The videos are starting to play."
That's awesome. Well, David, I appreciate you being here today. We do have, and I hope to continue to attract a younger audience as well, those that are in college that I've been mentoring or the work that we're doing at Villanova, or those who have just graduated. Can you leave us with a piece of advice for a younger audience on how they may be able to steps that they could take or advice that you may have if they want to get into hotel management and then also in the future maybe become a CEO of their own company like you've done?
Yeah, so a couple things we already tapped on, but look, take the jobs now that you don't want, that are going to benefit you in the future. Knowledge is a very powerful thing. Knowing the ins and outs of a hotel, whether you're running a hotel or you're in a tech company, understanding the way a hotel runs and operates. That's an education you can't get in university. So I would take those jobs. They're not going to be fun, but just do them. Right now you're in an age where I tell people, I didn't have LinkedIn when I was in college. like leverage that platform, start building a bit of a brand for yourself, start posting stuff, start commenting on stuff. Exactly what you start listening to podcasts. You get all these people who, it's like going to college. I mean, you can go to our podcast or your podcast, and you can hear from, top people from all these tech companies, from all these hotel groups, from American Hotel and Lodging Association, AHOA, Preferred Hotels. The list goes on and on. And it's just right there and it's free. So for me, there's so much content out there that you can leverage to better yourself and really even expedite your path and learn along the way. So take the jobs you don't want to take, travel while you don't have kids, use the what out of LinkedIn and listen to these podcasts and learn. But if you do those things and do it now, because it goes quick. Trust me, man. I just last month I had my 54th birthday, and I feel like how the heck did this happen? Next year I get to move into a 55 and over community. That's good.
You don't look a day over 30, man.
Yeah, shuffleboard. I can do some good. No, it's pickleball now. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, those are the things I would do. It's out there, but I always tell people it drives me nuts the young generation and I advise companies that have younger salespeople, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't really like LinkedIn." I'm like, "Well, then you're not too bright because that's where you're going to make your money, and that's where you're going to build your brand, and that's how you're going to really flourish in your career. LinkedIn is the place to be." So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It could use a little competition in the business social media space, but right now I don't think it's going anywhere. David, any questions you have for me? We always give folks an opportunity to turn the tables.
Yeah. So on my podcast, we ask a bunch of different questions, and we do the same thing. We turn it around where we get to ask another question. So
Well, I only do that because you did that.
right. Okay. Well, my question is you, what's one thing you wish you were better at? You had to pick one thing that you could just almost instantly be better at.
Mm. In business or life?
Could be anything.
Uh, boy, you stumped me there, bud. I I wish that I could get better at being in the moment, being present, right here in the moment. I have three little kids, so I have a 5-year-old, a 7, and a 9-year-old, and it's really easy for me to be on my phone, to reply to emails, Slack, messages. I've done good at like shutting down all my notifications, but I still, it's even difficult at the dinner table. We've been programmed to have this device, like unlimited information from anywhere in the universe accessible at our fingertips. And there are people that need things from me or asking me for stuff, tons of emails a day. And there's a lot of work to do, but these kids are only going to be this age once. And so I really wish I could just get better at being present, not focusing so much on the future plans, future vacations, future, but just kind of like marinating right here in the moment would be something that I strive to get better at.
Yeah, the only rule I put in place for myself and my employees is after hours and weekends, um, whatever they like to communicate with, they can communicate, but unless it's an emergency, they have to text me.
Mm.
Like, so in other words, I'm not going to reply. Like, I don't expect them to reply to Slack or email on weekends or in the evenings. But if I really need them or they really need me, just text me, and then I know like, oh, something hit the fan, and I got to get back. But you're right. I try to do the same thing. It's difficult. It's we've got pictures of we go home to visit family in Doylestown, and my brother's got 4 kids. My other brother's got 2 older kids, and we've got pictures where it's just you've got 15 people on their device. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
you can take a picture and you can see it, and everyone at the kitchen table's got a device in front of them, and people sitting on the couch, the TV's on, they got an iPad in front of them, and it's yeah. But I hear you. But yeah, it's something I think we all need to get better at. So you're not alone.
Yeah, I see a lot of tools flooding the space of, taking a time out from the phone, but even the kids now, they see us doing it and they'll emulate it. And, my son he'll have a box in his hand. I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "Working." He's like using it like it's a computer. And
Yeah,
where's he heard that? He's heard that at home because I've said it, with the laptop on my lap, watching TV with them. So yeah, no, that's something I got to get better at. I want to try to just be in the moment more.
hear
Yeah.
you.
Well, thanks so much, David, for joining us. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in. As always, please like and subscribe. Available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. David, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Go Birds.
Go Birds.